I'd like to talk a little bit about Mishima. And that's a Japanese technique that is also done in other places in the world. It originated in Korea and it was known as Sang-Gam. And what it is incising the piece. So I incise the lid here and inlaying a contrasting colored clay. So, the incised lines should be deep enough that when you scrape the excess slip off, that contrasting colored clay is going to really still show. Here's an example of a bowl that was done with Mishima. So I drew these lines and these dots with this tool, and then put a blue slip in there, and then scraped it off. Did the same thing on the back. Here's a brown clay plate. It's a stoneware plate with a white slip inlaid. Now you see those lines can be pretty thin. You could use something as fine as a knife. Just make sure you get it deep enough that when you scrape it, it's going to be clear. So I'll just do one more line here. There. Now this is the slip. Now the slip should be standard consistency. The pot should be leather hard. It shouldn't be dry or the slip will crack. Now the temptation is to put the slip on really thick. Well, don't do that. Put it on in several coats, because if you do it all in one shot, what happens is it'll crack. Because remember, this has a lot more water than the pot, and you just have to be patient, go do something else, come back, give it another coat. And what you'll find is it'll settle down as it dries. You'll see the recesses, and then you fill it up again and do it 2-3 times. The drier the clay, the thinner the slip should be, and put multiple layers on it. So now I just have to wait. The Japanese Mishima was made very famous by a potter named Shimoka. And Shimoka became a national treasure. In Japan, they actually make people national treasures. And people who are craftsmen. Now, Shimoka would take and roll rope across the surface of a damp pot and create a beautiful rope pattern. Then he'd put a white slip in and then scrape it and get that contrast happening. And you get the rope pattern in white against the dark clay. Okay. Hi, I'm going to continue with the Mishima. Now I put 2 more coats of slip on here, letting them lose their shine in between coats. And what happens is, as the water evaporates, it'll shrink down. And you can see that there are lines still here, but I've got enough slip in there that I can start scraping it off. Now, it's really pretty dry now. It still has moisture, but it should be fairly easy to scrape at this point. So I'm just going to use a metal rib and start scraping. Now you can use a trimming tool, anything sharp. Now this is still a little on the wet side. If you try to do this too soon, you will get smearing. It won't come off cleanly. But you could do it in stages like I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take some off now, let it dry, and then do a final cleanup. You can see there's smearing. That's because it's still a little wet. But I've got good lines happening. Now, if you scrape too far or you didn't make the lines deep enough, you can always come back and re-incise them and add some more slip. Now, one time I just let the smears happen. I did them in a direction, so it came out really quite beautifully with those lines of light color happening as well. This I want it just totally clean. Now, this works best with a smooth clay, like a porcelain or maybe B-mix without grog. If you have a clay that has grog in it, or sand, you'll get little pieces of it coming out as you scrape. So you'll have tiny little pinholes. To fix that, wait until it's dry, then you can go over it with steel wool. And if you did it early like I did here and have some of that color smearing into the clay, you can come back with the steel wool as well. But wait until it's bone dry before you do that. If you used a slip like a white slip on a dark clay, the smearing really wouldn't show very much. If you use a slip that has cobalt in it, like the blue slip or this slip, which is the black slip, it will really show. So you have to make sure you get it all off. So there's the finished lid. Put it on the jar, show you what it looks like. Thank you.